Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And welcome to Sunday School. Constance and I are preparing for tomorrow's Monday night magic class, which will be a continuance of a short little series on Enochian magic. Not only that, but my head is filled with Enochian magic preparations for the 3-day intensive down in Joshua Tree National Monument coming up here in just a couple of weeks. So you must forgive me for having Enochiana on my brain. I titled today's Sunday School talk, Can Angels Damage the Furniture? Somebody many years ago, and I think it's in Ask Babylon, asked me something like, can angels and spirits, damage things on the material plane? And my first thought is to say they damage everything on the material plane and fix it too, But that's kind of a little out there answer, no matter how true it is. But I say, no, an angel can't knock the lamp off of the table, but they can put they can influence you. They can freak you out. They can give you a nightmare in the middle of the night that just freaks you out and makes you jump up and knock over the lamp yourself. Something like that. Okay. And I didn't really even mean that. It's not like the angels are coming in from some objective corner of the universe and giving you a nightmare. But the point is, everything that gets done is done through agencies of unseen forces and unseen chain reaction of circumstances. And we could call those angels. As a matter of fact, it's a pretty damn accurate definition. And so why am I telling you all of this? Here. It's because I'm reading out of this, okay, lately. And here I digress here for a moment because I got a beautiful bookmark here by our dear family friend, Brianna Siri. Oh, she's done a whole tarot deck with these beautiful, charming little characters. And she didn't make a big drawing of this. She does all of this in miniature. So, well, anyway, I digress. You've heard me complain a lot that a superstitious magician isn't quite yet a magician yet, or something like that. Superstition, as the word is commonly understood, has, in my opinion, no place in the arsenal of modern magician. This, I believe, is especially true concerning the practice of Enochian vision magic. In all my years of magical practice and exploration of this system, I've never encountered a single case of so-called psychic attack, demon possession, headache, hives, or hernia. Indeed, any ill effects whatsoever resulting from the practice of this particular kind of magic, or at least demonstrably responsible for, because everything is connected to everything else. So you could just say, I'm sorry I blew my nose yesterday and it helped make the sun come up this morning. Even though it's true, it'd be very superstitious to say, blowing my nose makes the sun come up. That being said, strange and unexpected things do occasionally happen to those who practice magic. And while I believe it's bad for one's mental health to ascribe undue importance to these phenomena, it is important that they can be dispassionately observed and recorded. So before I discuss the round table of Nalvage, okay, and this is an Enochian table. The construction of it came very, very late in Dee and Kelly's working together, just days before the reception of the Enochian language and the whole key to the whole system. This was sort of the pièce de résistance. This is the last little piece of the puzzle that fell into place before the Enochian system as we know it came into being. But I digress. Okay. Because before I discuss the Round Table of Nalvage and its importance to the system of Enochian magic, I feel I must share with you two little stories that might help you understand the level of respect I hold for this particular magical object. 20 years ago, which is now probably 45 years ago, I was teaching a class in Enochian vision magic at our home in Costa Mesa. This class was different from the Enochian magic classes I had taught previously, for it was the first time we would study and experiment with using the Round Table of Nalvage. In preparation for the first class, I decided to make a copy of the tablet out of wax. I had done this with the Sigillum Deameth, and I've told you the story. Well, I've told you this story several times on this series, but not quite in this context. Yes, I made my Sigillum Deameth. I painstakingly made it one Christmas morning, sitting out on the cold back step of our house in Costa Mesa, because I was making such a big mess. Constance would let me do it in the house wisely. So I'd done it. I melted down all of our stubs of about 5 years of Gnostic Mass stubs. There's 22 candles in a Gnostic Mass, so there's lots of stubs left over. And I thought, oh, well, that would be a sacred thing to make my sigillum out of those Mass candle stubs, because they're already consecrated. But anyway, so I knew how to do it. I put the stubs in a Christmas cookie tin, a round one. Carefully put them in the oven, and turned the oven on very, very low, and kept a good eye on it. And so I'd had some experience with that. Okay. A friend had given me 2 massive black wax candles shaped like giant chessmen, bishops. 2 bishops, black bishops. My plan was to melt these down in a round Christmas cookie tin and carve the squares and angelic letters of the tablet of Nalvage on the cooled wax disc. It was a foolish time to be starting an arts project like this, because our landlord had just informed us he was bulldozing our house in 2 weeks and building apartments on our lot. Thanks a lot. Actually, it wasn't the landlord that told us, it was the surveyors that came. And Constance says, why are you surveying our land? She says, oh, we're going to bulldoze this in 2 weeks. Satan, thy name is landlord. I'm sure there's lovely landlords out there. I've just not ever heard of one. But I digress. Feel free to praise your landlord. Okay, and we were deep in the midst of packing up our things to move. Still, magic is magic and life goes on. So I put the 2 black wax bishops in the cookie tin and slid them onto the oven. I set the heat on the lowest heat possible warm level, and went out to the garage to help Constance, actually just to watch Constance work and pack up things. As you can imagine, we had some very interesting things in our garage, many of which we hadn't looked at in years. We did more reminiscing than packing. I didn't forget the black wax bishops in the oven, however, and checked them regularly. It seemed they were taking a long time to melt, so I turned up the heat a little bit. Back out in the garage, we found a stash of psychedelic artwork Constance had painted and drawn in the late 60s, and we were hippies living in the woods of southern Oregon. We hadn't seen them in 15 years. What a treat. We lingered over them for probably 10 minutes before I remembered the black wax bishops for the round tablet of Nalvage in the oven. When I opened the back door, I found the kitchen dark except for a warm glow that, like a spectacular sunset, brightened the dark clouds of smoke that filled the house from the ceiling to about 4 feet from the floor. I found our son, Jean-Paul, lying on the floor watching television, completely oblivious to the black smoke pressing its way toward him from above. Once he and the dog were evacuated, I called for Constance, always a level head in times of emergency. I discovered that one of the bishops had slid to the side of the cookie tin and parts of it had melted down the outside rim. The head had run to the bottom of the oven and dripped down the pilot light, which then became an eternal flame of Costa Mesa. There was nothing we could do to turn off the oven. Constance eventually had to turn off the gas outside, and with the help of baking soda wet towels, we got the fire out. I rescued the cookie tin and let it cool in the sink. A couple hours later, the charred ruins of our kitchen, I carved the beautiful black wax tablet of Nalvage. Now, it was that thick. Oh, this is it. Okay. Then I carved the thing. I've shown this to you before. And it was just beautifully, you see how clean the edges are. Okay. But all of a sudden you see this thing there. Boink. Look at this one. Boink. Look at that. Now, when I carved it, it was all smooth like this. Okay. But I'm telling this story again.
And that you're proud of it yet. It was horrible. We could have all died. Luckily, the house was being bulldozed in 2 weeks, and for some strange reason, the oven was not usable, but the top of the stove was for the next 2 weeks, so we would have really been in deep doo-doo.
Constance could still cook on the top of the stove, right?
Right.
Yes.
But the wall was, yeah.
Thank God they were going to bulldoze it, yes.
Yes. Or they would have anyway.
Yeah, and that's magic. The angels arranged that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The angels saved your butt.
And we moved to Broadway House, which we absolutely loved for 8
Yeah.
years or something. Yeah.
No, it was like 2 years, I'm afraid. We were supposed to stay there forever, but realtors came up and down the street like sharks and
Yes.
talked to our landlord who lived on the East Coast and into selling it. So
Yes.
now it's
I don't
over.
want to insult any realtors out there, but
we have-
fuck you!
But we
So-
no.
Oh,
But
oh,
we have a
no,
long
excuse
history.
me.
We have a long history of very dishonest realtors.
Fuck only the dishonest ones.
No, they're already. They've already got.
Man
problems.
has the right to live where he will on the face of the earth.
Well, prove it.
Yeah, prove it. But maybe I should delete that one part because it made me look so mean-spirited.
Just tell people not to do that. Okay?
We tell people not to do that. Just calm down.
No,
It's
I
going to
mean,
be all right. Everything's going to be all right.
I know. We tell people not to melt wax candles in their oven.
Oh, don't do that either,
That's what I'm talking
unless you're a serious magician. Unless you want to grow up to be like. But we digress. Where was it? Now, I'm the first to confess that this story has less to do with magic and superstition and more to my own carelessness and stupidity. I am now forbidden to use the oven for magical crafts. The accident did, however, serve to give me a healthy respect for the round table of Nalvage, a respect that in the last year has increased immeasurably. And that brings me to my second magical tale of Nalvage. As we'll soon see, there's much we know about the round tablet of Nalvage. What we don't know is how it was intended to be used. As I was preparing the class series that inspired this book, I debated with myself how, or even if, I was going to introduce it into our studies. After all, there is nothing in the source material that hints at what is to be done with it. Late in the afternoon, I prepared our living room temple for that evening's Monday Night Magic class. The sigillum, the ensigns, were set neatly on the holy table, and the table was covered with its red silk cloth, and obsidian mirror was set in place. I went to the closet cupboard in my office and took down my black wax round tablet of Nalvage from the topmost shelf. I unzipped its plastic bubble-wrapped envelope and carefully removed it. I had to admit, after all those years, it still looked magnificently magical. I took it into the living room and set it down on the cupboard table. I sat down in my comfy chair, and in the warm glow of sunset, which brought to my mind the glow of our blazing kitchen so many years earlier, I meditated about how the round tablet of Nalvage fits into the system. I didn't get much meditating done because the moment I closed my eyes, I fell asleep. I woke up just a few minutes before people would start arriving for class. I still didn't know how or if I was going to use the tablet in tonight's gathering, or in the night's gathering. I hastily decided that if I didn't have sound reasons for using the tablet, I was going to skip it altogether, at least for that night. I took the tablet off the holy table, wrapped it back up, and carefully put it back on the top shelf of the closet cupboard. Okay, and when I wrapped it up, with sort of a bag like this. I went to my desk to turn off the computer and gather things for class when I was startled by the sound of something smashing against my guitar, which was mounted upright in its stand near the open closet door, with the guitar strings still ringing. I turned to see that the tablet of Nalvage had flown from its shelf, ricocheted off my guitar, and was resting inches from my feet. It had to go zoom, boing, and then rolled over to my desk and plopped down at my feet. As a reasonably rational man, I'm of the opinion there is nothing supernatural in the world, just natural things that have yet to be explained. I'm sure there is nothing I can say to convince the cynic that the tablet hadn't fallen naturally from the shelf because I hadn't put it there properly. And I confess I do most actions all day improperly, okay? I remain, however, extremely impressed that the distance the object had to travel across physical space in order to strike my guitar and find its way to my feet at the very moment I decided not to discuss it at that evening's class. Needless to say, I changed my mind about the importance of the tablet, and in the few moments remaining before class members started to arrive, I composed a two-part chorus that incorporates the dynamics created by the Round Table of Nalvage, a chant that has become the last and perhaps the most important component of the ceremony of preparation to do Enochian vision magic. The Round Table of Nalvage, I'm not going to read this, so don't worry. The Round Table of Nalvage, tablet of Nalvage, is not really round. It's a square divided into 4 squares or continents surrounded by 4 outer bars. The continents and bars are subdivided into lettered squares, 9 squares per continent and 4 squares per bar. Now, the bars that surround it, starting right here where I'm pointing there, is spelled Lua. And then the bottom one is spelled Lang. And coming up the side, the opposite side, S-A-C-H, Sach. And then at the top, Urch. So do you see it's going like that? Okay. It's going in a counterclockwise motion, starting with Lua, Lang, Sach, Urch. And when you say Lua, Lang, Sach, you're creating that whirl on the outside. Now the continents are read in little squiggly lines like that. And they spell Yad Mazir, Yad Babsna, Yad Surgru, Yad Serofs. Yad means God. And they all mean stuff, okay? Let's see. Yad Mazir means I'm the joy of God. Yad Babsna means God's power in motion. Yad Surgru is the result of God's action. Yad Serofs, God's discord and lamentation. Okay, if you got 2 voices, one singing Lua, Lang, Sach, Urch, and another voice, angels are in choirs, okay, and another voice going Yad Surgru, Yad Serofs, Yad Babsna, Yad Sur. Okay. Do you see how that choir is activating sonically activating the tablet of Nalvage. Okay. That's nothing that I've been able to find in D material or anything else. So please don't think that I'm establishing an Enochian magic orthodoxy or anything like that. It just seems to, after you do everything else, just before you scry, that chant is a powerful drug, if you will. Anyway, if you don't think that angels can manifest on the physical plane, right there and right there, at least to me, is the finger of an Enochian angel of the tablet of perhaps the finger of Nalvage, which would be a great name for a band. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed Sunday school, and please forgive me if you're a saintly realtor. I got carried away for a second there, and please forgive me if you're a saintly landlord. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.